Hello everyone, welcome to a new video of Indicator Store, and today presenting a new feature of Market 2025. And also I forgot to mention another variable that we can extract from a strategy on the previous video. So we are going to do both things together. On the previous video we saw that we can know the entry, the target, the stop, and the number of contracts of any markers instance working on any chart from another chart, for example this one. And we also can know the daily PnL. So let's add that part first. So selecting this copy, pasting again, okay, but not on the main panel, on a new panel here. And this one is going to be the strat PnL. This is the daily PnL, and we can draw it in bar format because it looks much better bar. Okay, so it is on 0 currently. So that the topic I want to focus today is how we can let's say that we have an indicator on this chart that paint objects, no plots. And also we can see that we have arrows, triangles, and sometimes only arrows. Let's say that I want to trigger an order when I have an arrow and also a triangle. How can I do that? Currently, on the older version, that was not possible, but now we can detect an object and use it as a fast signal, and also we can let me show you the two functions. So on this chart, on the chart that is painting objects, okay, let's say that we have two indicators. One is painting arrows and it is not using plots, because if it is using plots there are a lot of easier ways to automate that. But let's say it only paint objects. So I need to detect the arrow, and I need to detect the triangle. Okay, so the indicator, this is new, is marker to plot. Okay, so I want to detect, let's say, the arrows, because the arrows are more present and the triangles happen only from time to time. So for the signal, let's name it arrow. Okay, and what I want to detect is an arrow up in color. Which color is this? So one way to know the exact color is double clicking the object, and now we can see it is light green. So we can type that name or just copy and paste the name of the color on the indicator markers to plot. So the name for the signal is arrow, and the color is arrow up in color light green. And the same concept that we had on markers, we can detect an object at any place or at a number of bars into the past, because we know there are indicators that paint objects not only on the current bar, but sometimes a few bars ago. That can also happen when there is a lag or delay, when the market is moving too fast. So any up arrow in this color painted on the current bar or a certain number of bars ago that we can adjust from here, it is going to create a fast signal. Okay, and the fast signal is arrow. Let's see how it works. Now on this chart, if I want to execute that fast signal, I can just add a markers. And no, marker plus, and detect the object arrow up. No, sorry, we are detecting fast signals, okay, because the object was painted here. On the other chart, we have access to the fast signal, and the fast signal was arrow. When we detect an arrow, we execute an order, okay? And we need an ATM, anyone from here, say this one, and an account, let's say on this account. Oh no, this is the same than this. Let's use a different account. SIM103, SIM103, enable longs, enable shorts, auto.
Order filled.
Okay, so now it just painted an arrow and it enters long. Let's move the markers to the upside.
Target filled.
Now we can check when we get another arrow. We can also see the dots are from the conversion from arrow, from object to plot. Let's see if we can detect the following arrow. The arrows are painted when we get, I think, one green bar. Let's see. Okay, now if we move the market to the upside, we should get an arrow painted and instantly an execution on this chart.
Order filled.
Okay, perfect. And if we look at the entry, it was exactly at the close of the bar with the
Target filled.
at the close of the bar with the green bar. Okay, so there's no lag. A green bar entry, and this is the arrow. The arrow was painted at the close of the green bar. So the dot is at the start of the following bar. And we are not looking at any info from the strategy because this strategy belongs to these markers. Okay, so we are not looking at position, target, stop, PnL. Okay. Now, how can I join? Because this is a fast signal. Now, let's convert this to a variable. Okay, now I want to detect when I have a triangle and also an arrow. So instead of using this method, we can convert these markers to plot to a variable.
Order filled.
Okay, a variable. Now you can see that when I replace fast signal by variable, instead of having the max lag, now I get the sustain. Because let's say that I want to sustain the value of the arrow variable for 5 consecutive bars after the signal. And let's see the effect. Okay, so we don't have any more fast signals. Now we have a variable. Okay? If I have a variable, that means arrow is not going to trigger anything. Let's finish this.
Target filled.
That means at the following arrow, nothing happens. Let's paint an arrow. So we can see that nothing happens. Okay, we have an arrow, nothing executed because the fast signal arrow no longer exists. Now we have a variable arrow. But where is that variable? We need to paint that variable or use a logic for that variable. Let's add a logic. Indicators, marker logic, and we can paint the variable arrow. Okay, when it is detected, I am not placing a logic condition by now, just the value. I want to see the value of the variable arrow. I don't want to paint a signal. I only want to show a dot. Dot in color, I don't know, maybe something different. For example, this color over the main panel. But to avoid the zeros, because there are zeros now, we can turn off the auto scale. Okay? Perfect. Now we can see there are some dots here because we had an arrow. Let's paint another arrow so we can see what we get. Now at the following move to the upside, we should get an arrow painted, like here. And this is calculating at bar close. So when the bar closes, then we have painted the value of the variable arrow. And it will be the price where the arrow was painted for the following 5 bars. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's all. It's finished. So from the indicator here, from markers to plot, we can decide for how many bars we have a variable with the value of that object that we can use on another chart. Now, how can we use this? Because we can do this with the arrow and also with the triangle. And then here, when both variables are true, then we can get a signal. Let's see an example. Now we can copy this with another markers to plot. Now I want to detect a triangle to the upside, triangle up. I don't remember the color, but the name is triangle. Let's use the word 3 so it is easier to remember. And it is a variable, not a fast signal. And I want to sustain by 5 bars. Let's use triangle. Okay, this is the name of the variable, triangle. So I want to detect the triangle up in a color that I don't know yet. And I want to... No, that's all. Here we have a triangle. The color is deep sky blue. Okay. So now on the detector, we set triangle up in color deep sky blue. Okay. Perfect. Now we have two variables, arrow and triangle. Let's do the same here. Copy, paste. Here on the main panel. This one is arrow, the other is triangle, but use a different color. like for example, deep sky blue, the same color than we don't need to use the same color, use something different, like this, okay? But just to make this to work, the variables of the strategy, let's change the strategy name on here, because these markers is creating the variable strat. Let's use strat2, okay? And now on these markers, let's use the variable strat. So now we can monitor. Can you see that now strat PnL is not found? Strat is not found because now strat do no longer exist, because this is created by this strategy. Okay. So on these markers, we create the variable. Where is that? Create variable strat. Okay. Now strat is again online. And currently it is showing a PnL of 47.96, and this is what we made on the last trade. Perfect. Now move the market to the downside. Move the market to the upside. It should paint a triangle. Perfect. Detected. And also it should be painted here. One arrow, two arrows. There's also a triangle. Okay, so we have arrows detected, triangles detected for the following 5 bars. Okay, and that's all. Now, what if we detect the first time that we have an arrow and a triangle detected? The first time they are detected. So it should be something like here. This is the first time here. On that place, I want to execute an order. How can I do that? Well, we can create a signal on any place, not only on this chart, because this is a signal, a variable. So we can create the logic on any place. And just to make it more complex, let's make it on this chart instead of on this. So we can create a markers logic where my logic is that arrow is greater than 0 and also triangle is greater than 0. And the first time, not always, the first time, I want to, I don't know, paint the background in color green. Let's use a different color. Paint the background in color gold. And create the fast signal, go long. But go long is going to trigger this. No, I don't want to trigger these markers. Let's trigger arrow. Okay. So we create a fast signal arrow. And again, this logic can work at bar close or intrabar. Let's see what happens if we set this on each tick. Okay. Nothing here by now. That's normal. Now, if we set this to random, we may get only an arrow and no triangle. Let's see if that happens. there's an arrow, but not a triangle. Okay, and we can see there is an arrow, and the arrow will be present for the following 5 bars because that was the setting. But there are no triangles. Now let's try to create arrow and also triangles. Okay, this arrow has expired. We have arrow.
Order filled.
We also have triangle. Okay, so now we have a dot and also a dot for the triangle. And there we have, and just to have time enough, we are detecting also the target position with this dot, the stop position, the contract size, and the daily PnL. Let's see if it updates automatically.
Target filled.
And there you have it. Okay, now we have a bigger daily PnL. Again, this is just painting a variable. The variable is present, is global. So we can know this, the status of this setup from any chart. We can see that we had 0 positions, 0 contracts, then 1 contract, and now we are again flat. So this was the missing extra variable that we have. Now we have strat PnL. That means that we can trade on any other chart only if the daily PnL is having a certain limit. For example, let's make it more complex. Let's say I don't want to trade if this daily PnL is greater than 132 on this chart. Okay, so I can set a limit on these markers 25. I can set a filter. Where are the filters? Here, enable filters. And I want that this variable strat PnL is less than 200. Strat PnL is less than 200. Okay? So longs are enabled and shorts are enabled. That's correct. Now let's create another signal. We have an arrow. And we have a triangle. Perfect. So now we have the logic is creating a fast signal, triggers here. Let's move the target to another place. We need $70. And we already have that, so that's okay. So when this markers is close, the daily PnL should be greater than 200. Okay. We can see that the daily PnL from this strategy is 230. The same we can see here, 230. And that means that this strategy is now disabled because we reach the daily PnL on this setup, not on this. And we can do the same for everyone. So we can set a daily limit for the whole deposition. So we can check strat number 1, strat number 2, etc. By the way, I am detecting here at bar close, but we can do that on each tick. Let's see if we have a difference. On this marker to plot, we are now here we are calculating at each tick. So as soon as the object is painted, it is detected and converted to variable. Okay. We can experiment detecting at bar close or at each tick for one object or for the other. But this is the idea of what we can do. Okay, that will be everything for today. This is the new feature, convert object to plot or to fast signal. Thank you, everyone. See you. Bye-bye.